Richens is accused of the poisoning murder of her husband, Eric, the father of her 3 young boys. Prosecutors say she was running a house flipping business that was losing money, and Eric was no longer going to support it. Corey's trial is right around the corner, and now they claim prosecutors are strong-arming some witnesses in the case against her. Tonight, the latest in the build-up to this high-profile case. But first, Brendan and Christine Banfield owned a beautiful home in a cul-de-sac in the leafy suburb of Herndon, Virginia. He was an armed IRS law enforcement agent, and she was a nurse. Together, they had a beautiful 4-year-old daughter, but they needed help with childcare. So the Banfields hired Juliana Magalhães, a Brazilian au pair, in October of 2021. By August of 2022, Brendan was sleeping with the au pair, sometimes in the marital home, sometimes when Christine was home. They also traveled together, taking a New Year's trip to New York City and ringing in the new year together. Then in February of 2023, prosecutors say they conspired in a twisted plot. They allege the pair opened a fake account on a fetish website, pretending to be Christine. Then they catfished a man named Joseph Ryan and convinced him to come to the home early one morning to engage in a rape fantasy with a knife. In the midst of the rape fantasy, prosecutors say Brendan shot Joseph Ryan and then framed him for Christine's murder by stabbing his own wife with Joseph Ryan's knife. The au pair has admitted her guilt and testified against Brendan, but now Brendan has chosen to take the stand in his own defense. What will he say on the stand? We are live from Virginia with all the latest in the au pair affair murder trial. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. We've got a big hour in store for you tonight. And we begin with the case out of Virginia that we've been covering in depth, the au pair affair murder trial. Joseph Ryan, I want to spend a moment to talk about Joseph Ryan, who was lured to his death. Joseph Ryan had nothing to do with the Banfields. Zero. Not part of their lives. Not part of their world. He had his likes, his dislikes. He had his own life that he was living, and he was into apparently some fet play, right? Some fetishes, some kinky sexual behavior. He's an adult. He's entitled to. There is nothing wrong with that as long as you don't force it on someone who doesn't want it. And there's no evidence whatsoever that this man did any of that. He was looking for a place to meet like-minded people, to engage in adult activities with other consenting adults. That's all he wanted to do. And for that, he was shot twice and killed. Christine Banfield, stabbed by her husband. That's what prosecutors are saying. She was stabbed to death. She worked as a sexual assault nurse. Think about that for a second. She worked as a sexual assault nurse. Someone who had to deal with the victims of sexual assault. Do we really think that she would want to engage in some sort of knife rape fantasy? Really? Someone who chose as a profession to help women who were victims, to help them just get to that next step in trying to somehow survive an awful sexual assault. Do we really think that was her hidden fantasy? She saw the reality of it as a sexual assault nurse. Now, the au pair, Juliana Magalhães, she admitted it all, okay? Admitted all of it. Got a sweetheart deal, no doubt. She'll be deported at the end of this trial, going back to Brazil, will be free to do whatever she wants to do, except come back to the United States. Now, she admitted everything, So if you take her at her word, in the case against Juliana Magalese, Joseph Ryan is lured to his death. Christine Banfield is stabbed by her husband. But obviously, Brendan Banfield says what she says is not true. But there were a lot of facts established and have been established in this prosecution case they just are. Facts are facts. Things that you can take a look at and say, oh yeah, that actually happened. How will he explain it himself? Brendan Banfield, when he takes the witness stand like his lawyer said he was going to. How will he explain some of these facts? Well, that's what we are going to focus on this hour as we take a look at the Au Pair Affair murder trial. Prepare you for Brendan Banfield's testimony and some of the facts that he will have to deal with on the witness stand. When you're talking about facts, there's one person you need to go to in this case, Court TV legal correspondent Kelly Craft, who is joining us live from Fairfax County, Virginia. And thank goodness, I said, listen, if Kelly's coming on the show, she's got to be inside. Put her inside. It's too cold. It's too snowy. We need her for, like 40 minutes tonight. Okay. So, Kelly, let's start here. Let's talk about facts. What are the facts surrounding this affair between the au pair and Brendan Banfield, the defendant?
Well, hi there, Vinnie. Yeah, nice to be in warm climate for once. We were outside earlier, and some of our equipment was blowing over. So now we're inside and telling you about the facts of this case because it's dark. It was dark today, dark tomorrow. This is the court case. It's going to get back underway on Wednesday. But when we start talking about the relationship between Brendan Banfield, the defendant in this case, as well as the au pair, you go back to when Brendan married Christine. So they got married back in 2010. So they were married for a very long time. They ended up having a little girl together. She was 4 years old at the time of Christine's death. So they decided to get the nanny, the au pair. This is Juliana Magalese, who we have heard from on the stand, who testified. And what did she say? She said that at first, her and Brendan didn't really have many communications. Most of her communications were with Christine Banfield. She said she didn't even talk much to Brendan. But then eventually they did begin talking. And she said that when she was 21 years old, this is in 20 of 22, they began a sexual relationship together. So according to Juliana's testimony, this was in August of 2022 when that relationship between the two of them ended up beginning. And so they began to take some trips. They took a trip to New York City. They also spent New Year's Eve together. We have seen in court some photographs of them together. How Juliana would do it is she would put an emoji over Brendan Banfield's face. So because the relationship was a secret. And so even though she wanted to post on social media, she didn't want to show Brendan Banfield's face because of course he was still married, Vinnie. He was still married to Christine Banfield. Now, at some point, we did hear testimony that Brendan Banfield took Juliana to that shooting range. We went out to that shooting range. And so they had shooting range practice, target practice, just in case, according to Juliana's testimony, something was to go wrong or if something was to happen. From her testimony at the time, it seemed like she didn't know at the time when she was going to the shooting range exactly what Brendan was talking about that could happen. It kind of came across in court like, well, you never know. You're taking care of our 4-year-old daughter. Something could happen, so you need to learn how to shoot and carry a gun. It was where he bought that gun. He bought her a gun at that shooting range, Vinnie, and that's the gun that she ended up using and ended up shooting Joseph Ryan, which we heard her say on that body camera footage to police. So after Christine was dead, Vinnie, we then heard testimony that Juliana moved into the master bedroom. She began sharing a bed with Brendan. She put a photograph of the two of them next to the bed. She moved all of her clothes into the bedroom. And that's when we've seen some of those body camera footage videos of some of her lingerie that was hanging on some of the dresser knobs. So we saw a shot of her red lingerie on the dresser knobs.
All right, Kelly Craft's going to stick around. Let's bring in the think tank. Joining us tonight, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Al Wunsch III, along with criminal defense attorney Darnell Crossland and family law attorney Jennifer Brandt. Great to have everyone here. And we're going to ping pong back and forth between you guys and Kelly. Kelly has some more info for us as well. All right, so let's start here, Al. How is Brendan Banfield going to explain this affair to the jury?
I think he's going to explain it. He's going to say, listen, there was an affair. There was a young woman. She came on to me, and, I foolishly got involved with her, not realizing that she was looking to use me because she wanted to stay in the United States, and she wanted me to marry her and everything else. She wanted to become the mother to my child. And she was getting very, very, very forceful with me and putting me in a position where I was uncomfortable. And the rest is history.
All right, let's go back to Kelly now. Kelly, what do we know about the FetLife account?
Well, we've heard a lot about these FetLife accounts, and this is part of defense counsel's strategy in which he's really attacking this catfishing theory. But even when we've had the private investigator on the stand from the defense, he has talked about analyzing all of Christine Banfield's data. According to his testimony, in his review of the evidence, he says that there is no indication that any of the devices were out of Christine Banfield's hands, out of her possession, Vinnie. But what we can tell you is that Juliana on the stand talked about getting a hold of Christine's computer, her work computer, as well as her cell phone, and setting up this FetLife account with Brendan Banfield. And then they would post, and they would kind of interview potential people to come over to the house and engage in this violent sexual activity with Christine. That's exactly what Juliana was saying on the stand. But when we hear from defense counsel's witnesses, what he's indicating, especially the one in particular that's going to continue with his testimony on Wednesday, he is still under direct examination, been on the stand for a long time. No catfishing took place, and the devices were never out of Christine Banfield's hands. Vinnie.
All right, let's go back to our tank. Darnell Crossland, what does Brendan Banfield say about this FetLife account? What does he tell the jury?
Well, I mean, I'm going to have to echo Al's whole idea. Ice baby. That's the theory here, is that she was afraid of ICE. She was going to try to stay in the country, and she's going to just basically flip the story. So everything that she painted, he can just flip the story and say, she's the one who wanted to do this. She's the one who said, let's get into this account. She's the one who said, let's pose as Christine. Let's make these conversations happen.
Wait, so Darnell, are you saying he's going to admit that he's part of it?
Yeah, I think that he's going to flip it and say he was in love and she was the one that was orchestrating the whole thing. He should get that sweetheart deal, not her, and that she was really the one that was behind all of this.
Fascinating. Jennifer Brandt, what do you think about this FetLife account? What is Brendan Banfield gonna say here?
I don't think there's much that he can say, Vinnie, because I think that if you go back in time and his wife's, prior internet searches and, activity, I don't think they're going to find any other FetLife accounts, or they're going to find that this was something that she was into. And there are other people who will, who'll stand up and say, this is not something, she was a sexual assault nurse. She helped people. She would never do something like this. So I think he's in big trouble with this account, no matter what his experts say. I don't think it's going to fly, Vinnie. I don't think it's going to fly at all. He was cheating on her.
Is he just going to say, I didn't know about the account? Is he going to say that?
I think that's all he can say. What can he say other than that? I mean, he's going to say, he's not going to admit that he set it up. So he's going to say, oh, this was something my wife was into, or, this is something that she did. I never touched her devices. That's what he's lining up to say.
Go ahead, Al. I saw it on the tip of your tongue.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not uncommon for people that are involved in, the type of trauma work that she has to perhaps, dally with it or get, interested in that type of lifestyle. And if I was him, I would be saying, listen, this was her private little thing. Okay, she knew I was having an affair. She knew I was with the au pair because we were doing it in the house. It wasn't like we were hiding anything along those lines. We went to New York together. There was nothing being hidden. She had her life and she had her, interests. I had my life and I had my interests. And then unfortunately, she just made a contract with the wrong person, and that person came in and was killing her. And then I, sprung to her defense and killed the attacker. I mean, the easiest way is to go around that.
All right, let's get back to Kelly Craft. We've got one more issue here that we want to get to in this segment. The soundproof windows. A lot has been made of this. What do we know about the soundproof windows?
Yeah, Vinnie, this is an important part of the case because Juliana testified on the stand that Brendan Banfield wanted her to test out these windows, that he had wanted her to scream inside the couple's bedroom and see, he'd be outside, see if he could hear something. She didn't want to do that. And so then anyway, she ended up going outside. So back and forth, each of them kind of did the same thing. But defense had shown some exhibits. So this is where it gets a little bit complicated because defense showed some exhibits showing that Christine Banfield actually showed an interest in getting the windows replaced. So the prosecution has said that this was all Brendan Banfield's idea. Let's get triple pane windows so no one can hear that I'm going to eventually stab my wife to death. We don't want anyone to hear anything. We need triple pane windows. So we've seen receipts for these windows, but we have also seen these calendar events on Christine Banfield's devices showing that she was interested and had things scheduled to get the windows replaced as well. So there's a receipt from August, and then there's also another receipt or an invoice from December talking about the windows being replaced. So in December, they ended up being replaced. In February is when she was stabbed to death.
All right, Jennifer Brandt, what are your thoughts here about the soundproof windows? What's Brendan going to say about these?
Well, he could say this is something that my wife wanted. The receipts, show that. But, Vinnie, I don't think it's believable. Even if she did want new windows, maybe she didn't understand that he was getting soundproof, triple pane windows for his purpose. Maybe she just, said, oh, hey, we need new windows and really didn't know what they were all about. So I think he had other motives here other than just simply replacing the windows.
Darnell, do you have the triple panes in your estate down in the islands?
No, I like to hear the birds. I like to hear the ocean. So I'm not planning to kill anybody. So I like to hear the nature.
And what are your thoughts here? What do you think Brendan's going to say?
You can make a lot of assumptions about why somebody have triple pane windows, and you can make it fit your own narrative. But generally speaking, you don't want to hear cars driving by, even if you're in a cul-de-sac or a nice neighborhood. So I don't think that, he's going to have to push away from the idea that these windows was because I was going to kill somebody. We just wanted windows. And if they're going to look for windows, whether it's her idea or his idea, he's going to have to just dumb it down and make nothing of that.
All right. Our tank is staying with us. Kelly Craft staying with us. When we come back, we're going to talk about more of the facts that Brendan Banfield will have to deal with when he takes the stand, as his lawyers said he would. Plus, coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, 2 fires, 1 family wiped out. Prosecutors say Paul Canero murdered his own brother, sister-in-law, and their children in a plot fueled by money and resentment. Was this a carefully staged illusion or a tragic rush to judgment? Tonight, we investigate.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates. Tonight, 9/8 Central, only on Court TV.
The tragic murder of Keith Canero and his entire family.
This one is the most brutal case that I've seen in my experience here.
The Mansion Murders Trial. Live coverage continues Tuesday at 8/7 Central on Court TV.
Hi, sir. My name is Gina. I'm one of the doctors here. Your wife has died. I'm so sorry. You were there at the time. So is there any part that I can help? I can explain what happened when she arrived here, but you were there and it sounds like there was a lot of blood loss.
Yes.
And so I think that she died of blood loss. Her airway was actually okay. I'll call the medical examiner, of course, and we'll do an autopsy and make sure we know for certain. But
I was turning to the pressure.
yeah. I mean, those were enormous wounds, and it's not.
There were so many.
Yes, and the neck is not compressible, so it's not possible really to stop all the blood loss. And her airway, it seems like, was in the midline okay. She was able to be intubated. Everything that was possible to be done was done for her right away. You did a wonderful, you did everything that was possible. It's not a survivable injury.
For the very first time, we're seeing Brendan Banfield on the morning of his wife's murder. They're being told that Christine did not survive. You can make what you want of it. Do you buy it? Do you don't buy it? Although I think I know what you're thinking right now. Anyhow, right now, Brendan Banfield, it was announced by his attorney that he was going to take the witness stand. So we're taking a look at some of the evidence and some of the facts that he'll have to explain on the witness stand. Still with us from Virginia, Court TV legal correspondent Kelly Craft. Kelly, wow, that video was very interesting, and I'm sure everyone has a very strong opinion on it. Let's talk about something else that Brendan's gonna have to talk about, which are the calls between Brendan Banfield and Juliana Magalese, the au pair, the morning of the murder.
Yes, Vinnie, these are going to be very important, explaining that timeline. And Brendan is going to have to talk about this because he is not far from the home when Juliana, the woman he's having an affair with, calls him. So at first, Juliana, everyone leaves the home. Juliana leaves. She's going to take the daughter to the zoo. Then she realizes, according to her testimony, she forgot the lunches. So she goes back. She sees someone's car in the driveway. Well, it's Joseph Ryan's car. So that was her cue, according to her testimony, that she was supposed to call Brendan Banfield. But first, she ends up calling Christine. So she calls Christine first, and then she calls Brendan Banfield, who is not far away. We did that drive. It's 6 to 7 minutes away from the home. The McDonald's is where Brendan Banfield was waiting. We saw that video of him driving through the drive-thru once, then again, then parking his car, going in, using the restroom, and getting a phone call. So he is at that McDonald's when he gets that phone call from Juliana. He leaves, he heads home. According to her testimony, she told him there's something strange or somebody strange is at the house. So while he is driving home, that is when he then calls Christine. So he is going to have to explain, because there are going to be timestamps, and there are, we've heard about them already in court, the different times of the phone calls. So he's going to be asked about that for certain.
Absolutely. Let's bring back in our think tank, Al Wunsch, Darnell Cross, and Jennifer Brandt. All right, Darnell, how do you think he explains? Is he going to say it's a coincidence that at the moment, after like 7 minutes in the bathroom, the moment that he finishes, she calls? Because like within seconds of her calling, he's on the phone already, walking to his car. Like, what are the odds that he finishes his business, and at the moment he finishes his business, she calls? It's like she's reading his mind and his bowels all at the same time.
Either she's reading his mind or she's following the plan.
Well, how does he explain it? Right. How does he explain it on the stand?
I hate to say it, but it's one of those things that you don't have your client testify because it's going to be too difficult to explain, and they're not going to be able to survive cross-examination by the prosecution. So I can't come up with an explanation for that. You know, you have to be a narcissist, have a narcissistic mind to make something up. This whole thing is stupid, and he's not going to be able to explain it. So they're taking a really risky chance putting him on the stand.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go back to Kelly. Kelly, what do we know about how Joseph Ryan died?
Well, we know, according to the medical examiner's testimony, that Joseph Ryan was shot twice. We saw images of this in court, in particular, the one shot to the chest. So we saw his shirt, and then we saw that bullet wound to the chest. So from the testimony and from what Juliana has said is that Brendan Banfield shot Joseph Ryan first, because when they had entered the bedroom, he saw Joseph Ryan stabbing his wife. This is what they had initially told police in the body camera footage. He then shot him once in the head, and then he was still moving, and so Juliana Magalese ended up shooting him again, and that's when the bullet went through his chest. So that's what he's going to have to talk about on the stand as well, talking about calling 911. We heard these 911 calls, how Juliana made the one call, then she made another call soon thereafter, and she testified, Vinnie, that Brendan Banfield had told her to hang up the phone. Christine had told her to call 911. She called 911. Brendan Banfield tells her to hang up the phone. She hangs up, calls back again. Then Brendan ends up calling back a little bit later and is explaining the situation to the dispatch.
All right. Al, how does Brendan Oh, we're listening to it.
Hello, Fairfax County 911.
My name is Brendan Banfield. I'm a federal agent. This is my house. There's somebody here. I shot him. But he stabbed her.
All right. Let's go back. We're going back to the tank. We're going to Kelly. Kelly, where do we go? Tank. Bring him in. All right. Al, how does he explain this? How on earth does he explain 2 shots? He's moaning in the background of the 911 call, the original one. She hangs up the 911 call. How does he explain all that?
You got me on that one, Vin. I don't know how he can explain that one. I mean, it is certainly a bizarre thing, but, I'm going to say, listen, it's a traumatic event. How do you react on something along those lines? I didn't rehearse anything. I'm not a person who's ever killed someone before. Therefore, I didn't know what I was doing. I was in shock. I was in this. I was in that. I just saw my wife, who I loved, despite the fact that I was having an affair, being stabbed viciously with a very weird knife to be stabbing someone with, by the way. But other than that, I mean, I think you just have to go with the excitement of the moment and the fact that he wasn't sure what was going on and he panicked, and that's it.
Jennifer Brandt, is he gonna play the panic card? It may be the only card he has here.
I think it's the only card he has, and the fact that he's testifying, just shows his desperation through all this. He knows that this case is not going well for him, and so what choice does he have but to get on the stand and probably make it worse, honestly, because we can't figure out what he's going to say. I don't think there is anything to say. He'll say that he panicked. He'll say that he happened to walk in and see this. He was shot in shock. But how does he explain that the nanny was there and also shot the guy? And it's a mess. It's a mess for sure.
Yeah. You get back to he trained her how to shoot, and she shoots Joseph Ryan. That's a tough fact. Yeah. All right. Exactly. Kelly Craft, what do we know about how Christine Banfield died?
Well, Vinnie, we know that she died after being stabbed several times, and you heard when he was at the hospital, you heard the hospital administration telling him about the wounds and how enormous, how large the wounds to Christine were. So we also know that Joseph Ryan brought that knife to the house. And there also was testimony in this case so far that Brendan Banfield, according to Juliana, wasn't pleased with the kind of knife that Joseph Ryan was saying he was going to bring to this sexual encounter, because he knew that that wasn't going to be the best knife to end up stabbing somebody with. So this was according to some testimony that took place earlier in the case. But he is the one, Joseph Ryan is the one that brought the knife along with some other BDSM items. And then Brendan Banfield's story has always been that Joseph Ryan stabbed Christine, and then that's when he sprung into action and that he wanted to save his wife.
So, Jennifer, here's the problem I have with this. Under his scenario, Christine is stabbed first. He shoots Joseph Ryan. She's already been stabbed. Juliana calls 911 twice, hangs up, and there's not another call for like another 6 minutes while your wife is bleeding there. To me, that's a real problem. How does he explain that?
Yeah, I don't think there is an explanation, because we know from the nanny's testimony that during that time he was sort of setting the crime scene and spreading blood around and doing other things. But from his point of view, I don't know what he's going to say other than, he was trying to save her. He's a federal agent. I don't know what training he's had in any kind of emergency medical services, but he'll say, he was panicking and just hoping that not the 911, the emergency people would arrive. Who knows?
Yeah, that gap.
Vinnie,
that gap is a problem.
But in the hospital, he was explaining that he was doing all these skills, and the nurse was saying, you did the best you could. You did a really good job. She was giving him compliments, and that, no one could survive those injuries. So he's probably going to play up on that, as the nurse said, he was doing an amazing job in that 6 minutes, maybe. But he just couldn't bring it around.
But they didn't do an amazing job of calling 911, which is the first thing you do in all first aid situations. Call 911, treat the patient, boom. And that gap in time, because they were called and then they called back, yet there's this gap. And in that moment, every second literally counts. You add it up to like 6 minutes, that's a problem.
It is a problem, but you know, I'm going to throw out a question to your question. Do you think Brendan knew he was going to be taking the stand? Because if you look at his face when his counsel goes, yes, my client will be taking the stand, he gives this look like, what? I mean, like, I'm the one that's going to be taking the stand in this? I mean, he could not have possibly been more surprised when he heard that. I mean, I don't know where that came from, but certainly if I was him, I'd be kicking the guy under the table going, when the hell are you going to put me up on, or what are you doing this to me for? So I don't know if this was all done
as we watch it.
But,
I'm taking a stand? What?
Look at that.
All right, Kelly Craft, great work. I'm glad you stayed warm this hour. Great to see you. We'll see you, I guess, tomorrow. All right, Think Tank staying with us. When we come back, Corey Richens' defense is accusing prosecutors of intimidating their own witnesses. What's going on in Utah?
No matter if it's a parent, a sibling, or a friend, talking about loss with kids can be a tricky subject.
Joining us now is author of Are You With Me? Corey Richens.
A year after her husband Eric died, Corey Richens began promoting her children's book, which counseled kids on how to deal with grief. In an interview with ABC4, she explained what inspired her to write the book.
My husband passed away unexpectedly last year. It completely took us all by shock.
2 months after this television appearance, Richens would be charged in connection to fatally poisoning her husband Eric.
She stated that the last time that she saw Eric alive was between 9:30 and 9:45 p.m. She stated that before going to bed, they had had a drink together to celebrate closing on a house for her business. And one of the children had a nightmare, and that the defendant got out of bed and went to be with that child in their bedroom. Around 3 a.m. when she woke, she stated she returned to her own bedroom, got into bed, and felt that Eric was cold to the touch. Based on the interviews that we conducted with those who knew Eric well, all stated that he did not use illicit drugs other than consuming THC gummies on occasion.
They knew that he didn't die of a drug overdose that he had caused himself. They knew that he was suspicious of Corey.
According to court documents, prosecutors believe that Corey Richens began plotting Eric's murder back in January of 2022 when she attempted to change his life insurance policy.
He knew that something was going on. He alerted his family, and he said, I think she's trying to kill me. And he even went so far as to say, if something happens to me, if something horrible happens to me, I want you to have Corey investigated.
Corey is desperate, greedy, and extremely manipulative. We have watched as Corey has paraded around portraying herself as a living widow and victim while trying to profit from the death of my brother.
She loved Eric. She loved her family more than anything. And anyone that actually knows her knows that she's just incapable of doing that.
I just wanted some story to read to my kids. And it's just comforting to them to know that, you know, they're not living this life alone. Like, Dad is still here. It's just in a different way.
Corey Richens, set to go to trial next month right here on Court TV. It's the next really big case here on your front row seat to justice. Corey Richens, though, her defense team now making allegations that prosecutors are intimidating some of the witnesses in the case. We got this from some court files. Take a look at this. Defendant's motion to compel disclosure, communication with trial witness. Last week, the defense team received notice from one of the state's witnesses, W1, that she was being harassed by an investigator working with the prosecution and inquiring whether there was anything we could do to protect her from them. The witness forwarded text messages she received from the lead detective, Jeff O'Driscoll, attached as Exhibit A. This is blatant witness intimidation, the defense says. Let's take a look at Exhibit A. And this is a text message between the detective and the witness, W1. Lead detective, I know you think you have nothing to do with this case, but here are the facts. You are a material witness in a murder case. You have received a subpoena to appear at the court as a witness. If you fail to do so, the judge will issue a warrant for your arrest. You will then have to sit in a holding cell until you are needed to testify. So make your life easier and answer our calls so we can prep you on what you will be asked. Otherwise, the next time I knock on your door, I'll have a warrant and a catch pole for the dog. W1 responds, I don't need to be prepped. Give me the time and date and I will appear. There is a second witness. The defense has now received communication from another state witness, W2, also complaining of being harassed by state investigator Travis Hopper and asking the defense team for assistance. Again, a text message between the state investigator and W2. W2 says, hey, Travis, I've already given a statement and I'm not interested in talking about this any further. Though Travis Hopper, the investigator, I understand your position and acknowledge that you have previously provided a statement. However, I want to clarify that the immunity granted by the prosecution remains conditional upon continued cooperation. Declining to participate further may place that immunity at risk. Accordingly, your cooperation is still required. Please give me a day and time you can stop by the sheriff's office so I can discuss the issues at hand. W2 responds, honestly, Travis, everything I have to say, I have already spoken and provided you with the document for everything you asked. I have been 100% forthright and cooperative, and I will continue to be cooperative. This interview happened nearly 2 years ago, and rather than take the time out of my busy day, what further questions do you have? I also want to add that when we met, I was told by everyone in the room that I had done nothing wrong. Even so, I will continue to be cooperative. Are they being harassed? Is this over the line? Still with me, Al Wunsch, Darnell Crossland, Jennifer Brandt. All right, Darnell, what do you think?
I feel so good today. This is beautiful. I love it. I love to hear this. This is what I mean when you have government overreach and they caught red-handed with their hands in a cookie jar. And those witnesses were so eloquent, so firm, and these investigators, they do this all the time. I mean, I feel like I'm coming out. I mean, I feel some redemption. So I think this was perfect. I mean, as a defense attorney, we struggle with this all the time. Kudos to those people. I feel good tonight.
Go ahead, jump
coming out.
Well, you know what I meant, Al. Pause, as they say.
Yeah. Jennifer, is this harassment?
I think it is harassment. I don't think it's necessary. Let's put it that way, Vinnie. These prosecutors or the investigators don't need to use that kind of tone with potential witnesses that they want to help their case. So it's better to be nice about it, say, we really need your help, please come out, that kind of thing. I understand that they need to prep and want their witnesses prepared appropriately for court, but to use these kind of tactics just makes the prosecution look bad. And now we want to know what the prosecution is going to say in response. And it's just a distraction from the main event here, which is the trial. So unnecessary.
And prep is just telling them what to say. You're not supposed to prep your witnesses.
It's a threat. It's a clear cut.
You could go over what questions will be asked, or, this is sort of how it's going to go for someone that may not have been in court. You're not telling them what to say.
But that's not what they did here. What they did here is they said, you're going to cooperate with us, or we're going to do this. We're going to come there and take your dog away. We're going to come there and we're going to put you in a cell. We're going to take away your, immunity or your whatever situation is with regards to witness 2. So what they did was they threatened these witnesses. If one of us as a defense attorney did that to a witness, we could be brought up on charges for that. I don't know why they wouldn't be. I mean, there's no one above the law, and they can't come in and use a threat against these people and say, you cooperate with us the way we want you to cooperate with us, or pay the consequences. And that's where this problem
Let me ask you
comes
this.
through.
I've one question that I want clarified. will the jury get to see these text messages? Is it fair game for the jury to hear this?
Absolutely.
Yes, it is.
Absolutely fair game.
I think it's fair game.
That's why I can't believe this guy was stupid enough to put it in a text. I don't know why the two of them were that inane to put that kind of a threat in a text message. I mean, does anyone look at their text message before they send it? I mean, this is absolutely absurd. And this is definitely going to go in front of the jury. It would be the first question I have on cross-examination. Were you threatened to be here? Were you threatened to cooperate? Yes.
Vinnie, it's very important to note that the minute you even look at a prosecutor, at a witness, the prosecution is always trying to pull that card on you. When my investigators go out, they always say, "Hi, my name is investigator such and such. I work for the defense attorney, Darnell Crossland. You don't have to speak to me if you don't like to, but if you would, I would appreciate it." And a lot of them say, I'll speak with you, and then they take a statement down.
We are out of time.
Have to be very clear.
Al Wunsch, Darnell Crossland, Jennifer Brandt. Awesome as always. Thank you so much. We'll see you again next time. When we come back, I'll reveal something else you need to know. Plus, coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, investigators say greed tore a family apart, ending with gunshots, flames, and 4 lives lost. Paul Canero faces life without parole for allegedly killing his brother Keith and Keith's family. But after years of delays, will the evidence finally answer who is telling the truth? Tonight, we investigate. Did an affair lead to double murder?
The Commonwealth's Attorney's Office has secured an indictment against Brendan Banfield for the murder of his wife, Christine, and the murder of Mr. Ryan.
Prosecutors allege the defendant planned to run away with the family's au pair. So he killed his wife and another man.
He was there, I'm gonna kill her, I'm gonna kill her. It's a case of sex, lies, and deadly deception.
The Au Pair Affair murder trial. Live coverage continues Wednesday morning on Court TV.
Time to take a look at the big board and something else you need to know tonight. Brainwashed. Who is that? That is Chad Frankie, the son of former YouTube star Ruby Frankie. You'll recall her and her business partner, Jody Hildebrandt, pleaded guilty to child abuse charges after one of Frankie's children escaped from a home and asked for food, water, and help. Well, now Chad Frankie is speaking out on TikTok. Here's some of what he posted discussing how he was brainwashed.
Hi, my name is Chad, and I used to be very brainwashed. I will go back to 2023, 2 years ago, and read every single journal entry that I wrote. This one is titled Scanning, January 23rd, 2023. Being a lifeguard, I just watch people's choices over and over. I have 2 opportunities to either feel compassion or lust. It is difficult to rid lust after a lifetime of feeding it.
He went through a lot being Ruby Frankie's child. I hope this helps him as he sort of publicly goes through his own diary and tries to, I guess, move to the next stage in his life. We wish him good luck. All right, take a look at your screen. We have a child who needs your help tonight. This is Alejandro Adicio Shaver. Alejandro is missing from Worcester, Massachusetts. He's just 16 years old. If you see Alejandro, pick up the phone, make the call. 911, 1-800-THE-LOST, or you can call the Oxford, Massachusetts Police Department. That number's on your screen right now. Let's see if we can get Alejandro to a safe place tonight. Don't go anywhere with another hour of live true crime. Vinnie Politan Investigates is next. In the meantime, please don't forget to hug the kids.